And now looking at it in the daylight, I'm going to mix a bit of burnt umber with the white and give some very gentle highlights with the dry brush. No water. And she needs some shoulder blades. Just gentle, that's our collarbone here. Just a suggestion. And here the fullness of the top of the breast. Stand up and see how that's going. If it's too white, just mix the burnt umber with a little bit more white. But we can also push them back with glazes if it's too white or harsh. This is the bristly brush that I always use for stippling, stenciling or highlighting or shading. It's kind of like drawing with paint rather than painting in some ways. Now I don't want to overwork it, because I do have a tendency to overwork. Sometimes I have to go back. And sometimes when you think you've got something you don't want to lose, just don't work on it anymore. Just keep it. Just stop. And just putting in a stronger cheekbone. Chin, just here. See, that suggests a smile now to me, with the cheekbone being highlighted, it without actually creating too much of a smile. I've pulled the corners of the mouth out slightly, and there's a suggestion of an enigmatic smile, a Mona Lisa smile. I'm going to put in some highlights in the hair now. So that's why I started from dark, because happens here is there tends to be too much white, and so it needs a few glazes. My hair's blonde these days, but when I was young I was dark. And this is just a symbolic self, not at all literal. It's just the face that I paint that comes out. Now, just putting some highlights in here on this side. Now, of course, I could keep it white. That'd be nice. I might eventually. I wanted to show you the technique of glazing with highlights and glazes. Get a smaller brush, finer tipped brush, perhaps this one. Let's pick out some more. Okay, now I'm going to dry that with a hairdryer and then glaze over it. And for the glaze, I'm going to use yellow ochre and water. I pop that onto the palette. Get a soft brush, a reasonably soft brush. Actually, I wanted a little thicker one, and just mix with water and lay your painting flat and go over it. So we have the brown coming through as well as the white, but it's not as harsh. I'm going to take a bit of the burnt umber and put back some richer tones. I'm just going to shadow here gently. Now if you wish to do a glaze over the lips to make them, give them that pinkness, then take a fine-ish brush and a little bit of crimson, very small amount of crimson, because we've already got the contours and the lighter shade, and this is the beauty of Glazing is that it just suggests the colour rather than having to repaint the whole thing. So there are, I'm just going to put a bit of pink in the cheeks. Sort of the brush has dried out, which is actually good. And you can do that also for the, don't be afraid to use your fingers. There's some pink in the cheeks now. And if you feel like changing the eye colours just a tiny bit, I'm going to try to change the eye colour because my eyes are greyish. But I'm not saying this is me, this is my mystic self, younger self, eternal self, and a different self, a different self. Now I've got some ultramarine and I'm just mixing it with a tiny bit of white. Ultramarine blue here. Mixing it with the white and perhaps a bit of brown. It's not too blue. And some water. And I'm going to that's too, actually that's good for a highlight, which I will do, but that's too, so I get a bit more ultramarine on the brush and gently go into the pupils like that. With some blue. So this is a suggestion of blue rather than it being completely and white. I'm going to do some black on in the pupils first. Give the eyes that depth. And everybody knows that pupils enlarge when we see something we love. So I'm of course going to put that in, except I need to dry this first before I do anything. So I've got a small brush and I'm going to take a tiny bit of brush on my fine tipped, tiny bit of black, sorry, on my fine tipped brush. Got carried away then. I took the painting away from view of the camera. I do apologise if I did. just taking my own advice and taking the brushes out of the water. And I'm just going to stand up and look at that. I'm going to dry the eyes, and they need some highlights. So I'm going to look in the mirror and see where the highlights appear in my eyes and my pupils. Okay, so the light source is coming from here, even though it is actually behind her. So I'm just going to pop highlight there. It's too much, so with the Posca pen, just don't want to overdo it, as it brings, there we are. I think I will, for now I will leave the face as it is, and I'm going to think about where I want the hand to be next.